the DJ.
Hey, check this out. We got a great show coming your way.
From the ECSI Sports Studios, it's the Midday Market Report with Jeff Dawson.
Good afternoon, sports fans from all around the globe. I am the host, Jeff Dawson, East Coast Sports Investors, and this is the Midday Market Report for Thursday, March 2nd, 2023. Round two. Shout out to Mr. John Merges. The internet wins again. We're in the middle of a show. We're getting all hot and lathered up, and next thing you know, this big blue screen goes poof. And it was pull the plug and lights out. Apologies to Mr. Merges and everyone watching. We did get some good YouTube clips up there with John and myself, so please go watch them on our timelines. I'm smiling ear to ear because, Andrew McInnis, who we talk on Wednesdays, we do shows on Thursdays and on Fridays, whenever we can. We talk more backstage. And as I said with John, I'm going to say this with Andrew. I'm going to start just recording the backstage shows. I'm going to send them out to Netflix and Hulu. We're going to have shows out there, and then we're going to come live and give you our thoughts on the NHL and whatever. CFL before you know it. But without further ado, let's bring him in, the one and only Mr. Andrew McInnis.
Good afternoon, Mr. Dawson.
Good afternoon, Andrew. It's funny, like you said, a blink of an eye, 45 minutes later, and oh shit, I got to get the dog in a half hour. Let's get on the
air. You know what? Time flying like that always is a good thing. It's we don't realize that it's almost showtime until we check the clock, but lots to discuss. It's an exciting time, and I don't want to wish away the season by any means, but Jeff, I cannot wait for the playoffs.
There is nothing better than playoff hockey, every shift end to end. And the good thing about playoff hockey is you get those 4, 5, 6 minutes without a whistle. And next thing you know, you're looking around and you're like, holy shit, here comes the Zamboni.
And the best part is, too, is after that great game is over, the next day you wake up and there's 2 other amazing games or 4 other great games. It's not like, some nights in the regular season where you're scouting out that great game you can't wait to watch, or the game that you're on the edge of your seat for. That's going to be every single night. So I'm looking forward to it. The funny thing is I always know it's playoff time because the weather will start getting nice and I won't want to go outside at all because I'll be inside watching hockey. So I look forward to it, and it's going to be wild. I mean, based on what all these teams are doing, I don't think we've ever seen as much. I don't know if the word desperation is the word to use, but we've seen a lot of teams saying, okay, you're doing that. Well, I'll match you with my this. And we're seeing a lot of that right now, especially in the Eastern Conference.
And you and I have talked at length. And as I told you backstage, I was talking to one of my Bruins guys this morning, and I was basically saying very nicely, you know what, if you don't win the East, if you don't win the Cup, it's not a failure in my eyes because I just think the East is so loaded. Then he says, well, wait a minute. You didn't obviously see the trade. They've pushed all in. They have no second-round picks till my daughter turns 30, I swear. And, first-round picks, third-round picks, et cetera, et cetera. Tell the people that don't know what the Bruins did today, why they did that, and your thoughts moving forward.
Well, I want to start with this. Before we start talking about Bertuzzi, I think that in general, when you look at a lot of the trades that we've seen, I tweeted this out earlier today, people have to stop thinking that it's all about goal scoring ability. For as far as you look at Tampa Bay with Tanner Janot, this guy is not brought to the team to score goals. Maybe an odd goaler here, but all the different moves we've seen that the Boston Bruins have made, realistically, what they've done for them has solidified them having 4 lines, not one line called the perfection line, not a little bit of helping support with the second line. They now have 3 or 4 lines that are dangerous, that can match opponents as far as their defensive abilities. And also they bring experience and physicality. I mean, you look across the line right now for the Boston Bruins and tell me, 1 or 2 players that is scared of physicality. I don't think they really have that. I mean, if Don Cherry was still around on TV, he would say some of the Europeans maybe. But guess what? I don't think Pasternak's worried about it. I don't think Krejci is worried about physicality. I don't think a lot of these guys are worried on the Boston Bruins roster about physical play. And they go and pick up some guys that are perfect for the Storm, a defenseman that's more than willing to throw his body around. And one thing about this Boston Bruins team that I've been preaching all year long, it's not a bad thing, Jeff, to win by 1 goal. It's not a bad thing to win, in comeback fashion. Come playoff time, I think that it's important to have a team that's comfortable in 1-goal games. Look at that road trip the Bruins just took place in. They're back home now. How many of those games did they blow a team out? None. In their last 4 games, the biggest margin of victory they've had is 2 goals. To me, that's impressive. I don't see it as a bad thing at all. I see it as a good thing.
What wins cups? Hot goaltender. No one can be hotter than Ullmark. They're talking about him in the MVP race. They said if Shesterkin could finish 3rd last year, okay, look at his numbers and look where the Rangers were to finish 3rd. Look at the Bruins numbers. Look at Ullmark numbers. Now, of course, Connor McDavid is in a whole nother world and a whole nother topic. But again, this is what we're talking about. This is what scares me, though, Andrew, is go back last year to the Avalanche when they were rolling and they were just dominating and crushing, suffocating teams. The Bruins aren't doing that, but they're winning. There's a potential that they could have the best record and most points in the history of the NHL if they finish the way they potentially could finish. In playoff hockey, it's one bad bounce, one bad shift, a soft goal. That's what scares the shit out of me. What happens if Shesterkin gets hot, Patrick Kane and their offense gets hot, and the Bruins lose in the 7th game 1-0? I can see that happening.
And, I talked about it with you backstage about that, the David Pastrnak, the re-signing and the extension there with him. That wasn't a 2-year deal. Wasn't a 3-year deal. Wasn't a 4-year deal. Not a 5. I feel like LeBron James when he went to Miami. I mean, I'm listening to all these years. That's how long they're stuck. Exactly. I mean, they're going to have him for a very, very long time, and they might not have the pieces around him come 2-3 years from now. That's the thing about them. And like you said, run into a hot goaltender, run into a team like the Rangers that, let's be honest, they've got a good goaltender not playing as well as he has been. But hey, all he has to do is get hot in the playoffs. And oh yeah, let's look at the top 6 of the New York Rangers with Kreider, Zibanejad, even a guy like Trocheck. He's like the bottom guy on that top 6, and he's still an unbelievable player. But you put Panarin and Kane back together, the chemistry they have, we could easily see a 5-goal performance from the Rangers, and all of a sudden Ullmark has one bad game, and there you go. But I'm happy you mentioned Ullmark, because even though he gets some credit, Jeff, I still don't think he's getting enough, because the Bruins are playing so well. Sometimes, I know this sounds weird, but sometimes as much as a bad goalie doesn't get credit on a bad team, because like Carter Hart with Philadelphia, I feel like a good goalie doesn't get credit on a good team because he can't score the goals. I guess Ullmark did score a goal, but you get what I'm saying there. I mean, I feel like it kind of gets passed up a little bit, but it's super interesting. I feel like they've definitely shoved their chips all in. The only thing I will say about that is that I talked with you before about certain teams that go all in and make big moves, but they have a young core, right? Like even the Oilers, like they've been through it and back, and last year they actually went pretty deep in the playoffs, but they've got still a pretty young core, right? I don't think the Bruins core is really young at all. So I feel like to a certain degree that can justify some of the actions they've taken. Even Taylor Hall and Foligno, who are both on LTIR now, they're going to come back for the playoffs. They're not getting any younger either. Taylor Hall, it feels like it was just yesterday when he got drafted. Now he's played for 3 or 4 teams.
It's exciting times here. I was at the Garden last night watching the Celtics, and as I was waiting for the photo op after the game with them, I was just staring at the boxes up there, and I visioned me, my family, a couple friends watching a playoff game up there, enjoying it. And just listen. I am Bobby Orr, Johnny Busick, Phil Esposito, Jerry Cheevers, and everyone watching right now is on their Google right now saying, yeah, I know Orr. Who are those other guys that you just said? And then we go to the Brad Parks and then Ray Bork. That's me growing up. And I was at the 2 games against the Oilers with Gretzky, with Grant Fuhr. I was at the fog out game. I was right behind the net during that game when they shut it down. But, to see them back there and all in, as my buddy says, listen, it's cup or nothing. And as you stated very well, that cupboard's going to be bare 2 to 3 years from now. You're going to have Pasternak, McCoy, and who else? I mean, hopefully Charlie's still here.
Exactly. And, I think that's really the reason why they had to do it. At least Sweeney has now said he's done, but I don't really get how that was breaking news because what else does he have to do? I saw a bunch of journalists and reporters for the Bruins tweeting that out, but it's like, well, I thought that was kind of obvious. Who else was he going to get? Was going to trade a 2nd round pick from 2033. I don't know really how many they have left, but it's going to be super exciting. And as I mentioned to you before the show, the West is still there. And I know there was a certain point in the NHL where it was 1 versus 16 and 2 versus 15. Well, that's not there anymore. Even the 1 versus 8's not there, but it's East and West. Somebody has to come out of the Western Conference. You and I have talked about it. There's the Colorado Avalanche, and then there's a bunch of teams next to them. You got Vegas. People are talking about Winnipeg, Dallas. It's, LA, I think, is a sleeper. But when you look across the board, I've been hearing people say that, the Eastern Conference might just beat the living hell out of each other. And all of a sudden the Western Conference is saying, hey, I'm still here. I'll see you at the Stanley Cup Finals, which is going to be really interesting to see. Even in the first round, Jeff, I know we're pretty far out to be talking about the first round and stuff, but let me ask you this. How many 5-game series do you think we're going to see in the Eastern Conference this year? I mean, I think even in the wild card round, we could see a lot of 6 or 7 games.
There's no doubt. This is last man standing. This is what it's going to come to. Obviously, not being sarcastic, we can put whoever the Leafs are playing, you can put a 7 right next to that because that's just history. We know
right.
That's it. It doesn't matter who's up 3-0. It's going 7 games.
Yeah.
And but it's going to be last man standing. And I was thinking the same thing. The team that can get out in a 5 or 6 a couple times early versus the 7s, the 7s. And I think you're right. The West, the Avs are rounding into form. So anyone that didn't add them to your portfolio now, add them to win the West, add them to win the Cup, and then start working backward. You have talked about the Stars. I'll go back to August, September when I talked about the Wild. I know they're not sexy on paper. I still think they have a puncher's chance, Andrew.
Well, when you're a team that, 7 of the last 8 games have gone under, that's kind of what you look for as for a playoff team. It's crazy to think that for a Rangers team that's, has a goaltender like you said yourself was in the MVP talk, but all everybody can talk about right now is, will those forwards on the Rangers be defensively responsible, right? Tarasenko and Kane, are those guys known for defense? I don't think so. So the question is, are they going to win every playoff game by scoring 4 goals? Because you look at what happened last year in the conference finals, they lost 1-0, right? So it might be a little bit of a different, but the Wild, when they play strong defensively, they've got a great goaltender, 2 good goaltenders, I think. That's really the biggest difference to me. So the LA Kings, I think are kind of a new team I've had my eye on to look at. I'm trying to ask people around, see what everyone's thinking. And besides Colorado, I find it the most interesting that Winnipeg is kind of, at least at a certain point in the year, Jeff, they were high up as far as the standings, but the bookmakers weren't giving them credit anywhere. And I know for a fact that they don't have a lot of liability on the Winnipeg Jets. So I got to ask myself, why do they not like this Winnipeg Jets team? Is it history? Is it depth? Is it scoring ability? I don't know what it is, but let's look at the Canadian teams for a second. Calgary, what have they proven to us on a consistent basis? That they're always going to let us down. Edmonton, they lose Barry to get Ekholm. How much of a factor will that be? Ekholm is a really good defensive defenseman, and I'm sure they needed that. But let's not forget, Barry was the quarterback of that power play. Everyone talks about Leon and Connor, but who was the guy getting an assist every single time one of those guys scored? It was Tyson Barry. So there's lots of things going on in the West, but I think if the Edmonton Oilers can figure out their defensive situation, they could be a team to watch. But, you know, I would really say watch out for a team like LA, watch out for Dallas, because the thing is, Dallas, they're capable offensively. We know what they can do defensively, but if they can show us leading into the playoffs, they can play good defensive hockey. They're a team that I think presents lots of value. You know, their coaching staff has to get them back into playing 2-1, 3-1 games, though. I was absolutely shocked a couple nights ago to see them allow 4 or 5 goals to Vancouver. That's just not acceptable.
If we basically were looking for an angle and just a hypothetical that somehow, some way, miraculously, the Bruins got through the East, if that was your thought process, wouldn't you, just for poops and giggles, have to have an exacta Bruins, Vegas Bruins, because of the Cassidy side there?
I think so. I mean, it'd be very interesting to see if that can happen. I don't believe in the star players for Vegas. That's the problem for me. There's been too many guys in and out of the lineup, and I don't know. I've never really been a Jack Eichel guy. I've heard he's a great person, but you know, other reports suggest the opposite of that. I don't know. It seems to me that there's a lot of egos in the room, I guess I'll say, of Vegas, whereas so other teams don't really have that. So, but I agree. You know, Jeff, I didn't used to think those were really good bets to make. And then when you look at a bracket format like the NFL, I'm going to start betting those every year now, because if you really feel strongly and passionately about a team making the finals, and you have a couple, because you can make 2 or 3 of those and get like 24-1, you know, 18-1, whatever it might be, because you're not just asking one team to go to the finals. You're asking both. You're pretty much parlaying, and then you're going to pick exact result. Who's going to win? You know, you're getting pretty good odds on that.
Absolutely. Shout out to TJ. He says, hey, JD, and hey, Andrew. And TJ turned a young 32 a couple days ago. I hope you survived. You're not hungover anymore, TJ. And, you know, no more blowing 25 and 26 point leads to your arch rivals in FSU there. Big Hurricane fan that TJ is. Big board tonight, sir. I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games. Bruins back home against the Sabres. Not a headliner in my eyes. Pittsburgh at Tampa. Nice headliner. You talked backstage, Ottawa and the Rangers, what you thought about that. Nashville, Florida. Line smells a little to me. Be interested to what you see there. Toronto and Calgary. Nice number there. And the late night game, St. Louis, and do you know the way to San Jose? The board is yours, sir.
You know what? You just mentioned the San Jose Sharks. Look, they've kind of they've been selected as my fade team for this week, and you know, a lot of it was after some trades they made, giving up Timo Meier, and you know, all the quotes I've even seen from Erik Karlsson, where he's just like, he's shocked. He's a rich man living in a poor community right now. It seems like he's someone that does not know where he belongs, where he fits in. That team does not have the right pieces right now to compete. They don't have 4 lines. They don't have 2 lines. I don't think they've got a handful of players. When you have a player in Timo Meier, that his shot prop, no matter where you shopped around, Jeff, his shot prop was at 4.5 every single time out. He was beating that number by getting 5, 6, 7 shots. And not only was he getting those shots, his shot attempts were up there in the double digits. Why am I bringing that up? Because who's going to replace him? You know, I don't think they really have that. Whereas, yeah, sure, St. Louis has changed some pieces as well, but they still have a lot more guys, and I feel like a better defensive team. So I'll actually take the road team in that one. I'll take the Blues. Sharks did blow a lead to my Montreal Canadiens, but even when they held that lead, they did not look very good. So I'll take a look at the road team in that one. I talked with you backstage about the over in Ottawa, New York. Look, we've seen 17 goals produced by the Senators the last 3 games. those games were against the Red Wings and Montreal Canadiens. Look, not too of impressive opponents, but the offense is clicking right now for the Senators. Don't tell them, because they believe they actually can make the playoffs. And right now, they've seen nothing but W's on their recent games. But even in winning fashion, the Rangers did not look very impressive last night. Now you slot in Kane. You've got Zibanejad, Kreider, Kane, so many guys, Panarin. This is a team built to score goals. Will it translate right away? I think it will. Power play is dangerous, over 6.5. That's a play I really do like tonight on the board. And a game that I think we're all looking to talk about, the Maple Leafs and Flames game. The Maple Leafs are 7-0, their last 7 games off a loss. I would be leaning towards that side, but I actually like the under in that game. I think we could see a lower scoring game, even though there's going to be lots of talent out there. It is back-to-back. And you mentioned the Florida game kind of stinks, Jeff. I know it does, and I feel like it's a popular bet, but I got in at -110 in regulation on the Panthers. Okay. It was a team total I considered, but I look at this Nashville team, and they could play some boring style of hockey, which is one of those ones where I had circled thinking they could win, a low-scoring game, which is, I know, shocking to hear in a Panthers game, but the Predators are a team that I actually think it's a really good thing. They traded away a lot of guys. They traded away some top 6 guys. They traded away a marquee defenseman. They finally told their fan base what they're planning on doing. I've had a couple guys that are constantly commenting to me saying that I'm a hater of the Predators. I'm someone that's been pretty real about them. They're a middle-level team. They're the middle of the pack team. And the fact of the matter is that they have not really proven to take that next step or even, sell off any pieces. So anyway, I'm fading a team tonight in the Nashville Predators that I believe is just going in a different direction. Florida, well, they smell of desperation, and I feel like that we'll see that tonight.
I agree with you. That number, I was looking at it over here, and I was like, wow, I had an overnight number of 177, which seems a little light to me. And then right now at Circa, it's 173. The under-over 6.5, juiced over -20 cents. That just smelt a little low to me. And I was like, okay, I could see that. I get a lot of questions about the Bruins tonight, coming off that road trip. Usually the first game back, I always bring this up like the Bronx Zoo. A lot of people, again, go Google that book, read that book. They talk about long road trips. And when the gentlemen come home, they haven't seen their girlfriend, they haven't seen their wife and their family in, 7, 10, 2 weeks. And so they have what we call sea legs the next day, wink, wink. And they tend to not play that well the first game back. They're a little flat. In come the Sabres, who has a high octane offense until I play their team total over, and they're nowhere to be found, of course. But tonight it's kind of interesting. The Bruins team total, 3.5 juiced over -170. So Vegas is saying, hey, the Bruins are going to score 4. We're not giving you a free bingo square here. It's going to cost you 70 cents. And the comical thing here is the Sabres team total, 2.5 juiced under -20 cents.
It's tough in any way right now to fade the Boston Bruins. You have to have almost like tomorrow's newspaper to want to fade the Boston Bruins right now. But that's kind of where I look. There's two bets I like in this game. I do like that team total for sure for Buffalo. I have looked at it, but I like the +1.5 goals for the Sabres, and I like the under. I don't play a lot of +1.5s, but like I've mentioned, the Boston Bruins have been involved in lots of close games lately. And what you just said there about coming back and seeing the family, to me, that only applies off a successful road trip, not an unsuccessful road trip. And they had a really good road trip, lots of W's and also lots of adversity. Like I said, close games. So do I think Buffalo could win? I do. But if they do lose, I think I could see a 3-2 Boston Bruins game. I really do think we could see a typical Bruins victory. So I'd like that +1.5, but I always say the better team dictates the tempo. And when Buffalo Sabres play another average team, they can usually string that team into an over. I don't think the Sabres will be able to string the Bruins into an over game. It should be a more lower scoring defensive battle than the Sabres are used to. I could be wrong. I could see another explosive offensive game, but I think we will see a side of the Sabres we're not used to seeing tonight.
Yeah, the Bruins, every team that comes in, I see that 2.5 juiced under -20. And then again, the Bruins either give up 0, 1, or 2. The only problem now is if you take the Sabres plus the 1.5, which seems like the right side, Andrew, it really does. We have to now fear Ullmark. Is he going to score again?
Yes. Well, that's the thing. I mean, it's true. The empty net goal, who knows who it'll be, but the fact of the matter is that I'd be very disappointed in myself if I took Buffalo team total over 2.5 goals and they lose 3-2 and the plus 1.5 was pretty much the same price, or not the same price. It's a little more chalky, isn't it? Let me see. What did you say it was there, Jeff? It's even better. It's -105. So yeah, like that's the thing. The empty netter would make me mad, but I'll take my chances that it finishes 3-2 than 4-3. You know, that's kind of the Bruins also though don't seem to be a team that goes for that empty net that often. You know what I mean? I feel like they just dump it in. They're okay.
They can do no wrong. Don't worry. The duck boats, the parade routes, they're all set. They're just wondering, do they have to, do it 2 days before the Celtic one or 2 days after the Celtic one? That's what the locals are saying. But the crawler's been going the whole time, Andrew. Everyone on Twitter that's not following you, please, please, please go over to McInnis Picks. You can see all his work at Wager Talk at Sports Mayflower. Go over to YouTube. Subscribe to Mayflower Sports. It's free. Check the box there. And while you're over there, go to East Coast Sports Investors. You can check the box there as well. Andrew, tell them what you got going for them at Wager Talk.
Yeah, I've got 3 plays tonight in the NHL, some props. I'm doing props pretty consistently now. Anybody jumping on board with the props, it's a roller coaster, but we play them pretty small, and it's a lot of shots, point props, and different things like that. And we do have a deal going for March Madness as well. So anybody interested in my selections, you can grab a good package at Wager Talk. And as we always preach, I recommend the longer-term packages. Get to know me for a long month. Don't judge me by one day. Judge me by a couple of weeks. And that's all I really have to offer. I appreciate it, Jeff, and look forward to next time.
Yes, I will say tentatively, myself and Andrew will be back on Wednesday, but if not Wednesday, most likely Thursday at this time, and if not Thursday, maybe Friday as well. So for myself, Jeff Dawson at EC Sports Invest, the one and only Andrew McInnis at McInnis Picks and Wager Talk, we wish everyone a blessed afternoon and evening. Have some fun. Catch myself and Riley and the closing bell in about 15, 20 minutes. Give me a few seconds. So see you soon.